Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. You're here with a special segment of Post Credits with the Poi N Soy podcast. I'm Nolan Chang, your co-host, and with me, as always, are my longtime friends and co-host, the dancing Jalen Holston over there, and Keone McKeague.
His name is Jesus.
Yeah, get it right, okay? Jesus Herrera.
Blasphemous. Anyway, say what's up to the crowd.
What's going on, babies? It's time.
So,
Metro Boomin, what's up? Oh, nigga. I was like,
wait, what's up? What was that, Jalen?
What?
What?
Huh?
Huh? But yes, today, this segment is solely for the spoiler review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Brought to you by Sony Studios. This will be spoiler heavy.
Oh, did you guys see it? You saw the movie already? Is it out? The movie come out already?
Keone, I'm gonna need you to shut the fuck up.
Did that movie
What
already
is
come
wrong?
out?
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
Never heard of it.
What
Why
is
are
wrong
you
with
the
you?
way you are?
Be different, like immediately, like right
Be
now.
better.
Okay.
We're talking about the one with Andrew Garfield? Is that the one we're talking about?
I mean,
Okay. All right.
you know, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong, but also fuck
You're
you.
wrong.
See, then you do the thing of the opposite thing that you just said you didn't want to do by saying what you just said.
We spoiled nothing.
I spoiled nothing. The
Sure.
plot is intact,
Correct.
and it's nothing they haven't seen before.
Correct. So
There's a lot they haven't seen before.
I meant
there is a
in
lot
some
that
of the
they have not
statements-
seen
I meant in the
before
statements
in this movie.
that I
I have
made.
not seen this movie.
To be fair.
Anyways, yes, gentlemen, I'm gonna go around really quick. We're gonna give a little non-spoilery just for you out there who maybe want to stick around and hear what we have to say about the movie, and then maybe you'll go see it and then come back around for the spoiler portion that we do have. Jalen, I'll start with you. You are the one who saw it most recently. What were your thoughts? And if you could, give it a rating.
I was, I didn't break tears like some of my other co-hosts, but I will say I walked out of that theater emotionally numb. In the best possible way, I was emotionally numb because it hits every beat of a Spider-Man movie that you need it to hit. So there's the coming of age moments, the cute teenage romance moments. There are epic action moments, and there's him triumphing over the villain moments, and then there's also just the always great realization of what a great hero that he is. And it's just more of the things that we loved about Miles from the first movie. So 100,000 out of 10. It's a hard see it from back in the day. If you haven't seen the first or the second, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you
What
doing?
are you doing? You're crazy.
I'll toss it over to you, Keone. What were your thoughts on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
Huh? What did you say?
Dude.
That'll be a funny one for the pod. I'm gonna just dub that part. Anyway,
That one.
I think that it's one of those movies that it truly transcends its own genre. I mean, it's supposed to be an animated film on technicality, but honestly, it was so damn good. And I think one thing that I did enjoy about it, because it was an animated film, is I always say this about like other films, is like, if it's going to be an animated film, you kind of want to see something that you probably couldn't really adapt into a real life movie. And there was a lot of that. We'll get into that in the spoilery part of this review. But it was fantastic from beginning to end. I give it, he went 10 million or whatever, but I'll just give it a solid 10 out of 10 for sure. There's nothing wrong with this movie.
Yep.
Short and sweet. Go see the damn movie.
Yeah.
It has the makings, 2/3 way of possibly being the best trilogy comic book movie franchise of all time.
Or
So go
just
see
film
it. 10 out of
franchise
10.
in general,
Yeah,
honestly.
film
Like at this
in
point,
general.
Right on.
holy shit,
Mhm.
it's incredible.
Mhm.
We're going to dive right into the spoiler heavy portion of this movie review. I'll throw it back to you, Keone. What were some, I guess you could say, things that you had a little bit of gripes with, if any, with the movie?
That it
And
ended?
on to Jalen.
If
I
any.
mean, Yeah, it's like honestly that it ended the way that it did. I think I mean, I was sitting there and obviously looking at the time, and I was kind of like, this, this is supposed to be a 3 hour movie, right? It's supposed to be 3 hours, right?
They're not
Right?
just gonna end it here,
Yeah,
right?
and I could just tell as it was building up. I literally looked at Bianca and I was just like, "It's about to end right now." She's like, "No, it's not. No, this is the whole." I'm like, "It's going to end. I'm telling you, it's going to end." I feel the music is building up. It's like getting louder. It's crescendoing.
And you
All of
just see
these
them clipping
moments,
to each world.
yeah,
And
and
you're
they're
like,
showing
no,
all these
no,
different
no.
things that like I'm like in my head. I'm like, if they do end it right now, it'll be it might be bad because it'll be like they rush through everything, and I hope that that doesn't happen. Sure enough, it ended. I looked over and I was just like, I mean, it was, but it the entire ride from beginning to end, it was fantastic, man. So if I had any gripes, it's literally that the movie finished and I gotta wait another year to see the second half of this damn thing. So that's it. Nothing else. Period.
Jalen, anything that you had maybe because you do have the more knowledge of the comic book background? Were there any things that maybe just rubbed you the wrong way? Just I know there was a lot of comic fan service
My
as
God.
opposed to like just movie fan service.
Yes.
But was there anything that really kind of left a bitter taste in your mouth, but just like a drop?
No, listen, I will say I feel like this movie had a much slower beat than the first film, so that might be my biggest gripe about it. Especially when it comes to how they developed, Gwen and Miles in the movie, and then the relationship with both their parents from Miles and his dad, and Gwen and her dad, and that parallel that they ran through the entire movie. My only other, I guess you could say nitpick, if I'm really nitpicking this fucking incredible film,
Yeah.
it is the portrayal of Gwen, and like how her character kind of arced through the movie, because it's gonna set up this kind of, I want to say, textbook rom-com scenario where some suddenly probably Miles is going to fall back in love with Gwen, even though like if that was a real person, all of us would be like, you are never talking to me again. You know what I mean? Like that is how this goes when you set me up to basically get deleted from my home world and everything that I know by this
Right
weird
on, yeah.
corporation, you know? But I mean,
Sick.
like,
We're not calling each other ever
like
again.
right, yeah, we're done for sure. But that is what it is. You got to have the romance line in there somewhere for a Spider-Man film. But no, everything else was pretty much right on par. I would say I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Spider-Man Unlimited because he was so heavily in some of the marketing for the film with like some of the teaser clips that they threw out there. I'm assuming that's because he's a bigger part of the Beyond the Spider-Verse second half, because we did
Now,
get a
which
lot of Ben
one
Reilly.
is unlimited?
So Spider-Man Unlimited was supposed to be the follow-up series to the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s. So he was the one that had like just the straight yellow eyes. He was the only Spider-Man with a cape, like the web cape, and he fought on a world called Counter Earth, where
Gotcha.
basically everyone was an animal. I don't know if you guys could Google it, but it was great to see all the other Spider-Men. Of course, we had tons of references to the new Spider-Man game because that is coming out soon for
Wait, so like
PlayStation and
Counter Earth from Guardians of the Galaxy 3, where everyone's an animal?
literally the same. Yes, the exact same
Hmm.
planet thing. So
Well,
that's canon and it's in there. So there
well
you go.
played.
Clearly, they're still sharing a little bit of some of the IP with Marvel. So that was cool to see, referenced in there, at least with just his appearance. I'm not sure if we'll ever get in a Sony version of Counter Earth with that regard. I will say I would like to have seen. I mean, it's hard to say. Like, there's probably things that we wanted to see in this movie that they're probably going to put in the third movie. You know what I mean? So it's hard to say, like, oh, I wish I wanted more of this or that because
Mhm.
we know we're going to get it in the third movie. And I think that will be kind of where we level off where this goes. But yeah, Sony pulls this off, man. It's not only going to be easily the greatest Spider-Man trilogy, it will be arguably one of the greatest film trilogies, I think, of all time, given how they've done such amazing work from art direction to score to
Oh, the
casting to
art.
writing and it's yeah, if you're like myself, as somebody that is in the art realm, to watch this animation and how they pulled off all of these different things with color and mood and like the different illustration styles going from Gwen's universe to Miles' universe to all those things. But
I
yeah,
could do nothing but just nod
crazy.
in
It's
complete
crazy.
agreement. Like
So
it's
good.
insane, man.
Yeah, it's so good. But those are my nitpicks. Small nitpicks, but they're
Not
there.
bad.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for the only one that I really had was kind of in the same boat as Keone. Didn't really like that. I mean, I would say I didn't like it. I was wanting more, which is very
What they wanted,
understanding.
right?
Yeah, what they
Yeah.
wanted,
Yeah.
right? And it was kind of, oh, they're leaving so many things that can happen next, but I have to wait till next year, March, to see it. But it was a good, complete movie. The one thing I also had a nitpick was. I think he locked himself in the restroom. Sorry, guys.
Oh my days.
Where Gwen is realizing that he's in the wrong universe or the wrong world, and then he's kind of helping. He goes to the parents and says, "I'm going to go find him." It's like, first of all, his dad's a cop. Like, his son's missing. He's going to go look for his son. I don't know.
Right.
It's like, I'm just going to trust this girl that I met less than 24 hours ago to go find my son and help him through the dark times he's going through. A little bit of a nitpick.
So the only thing, do you guys kind of get the vibe that maybe the mom already knows? Like she might
Nah.
already know what he's
Nah.
doing?
Nah.
No?
Nah, not
Because
that
I almost felt like that's why they made it that way, so that it's kind of like she knows there's something else that he's dealing with. Like, I don't
I
know.
mean-
I'm calling it like a mother's intuition. Like maybe
I
she
was
just has
thinking
that
the same
sense already.
thing. I was thinking the same thing when like the counselor was like, he's hiding something from you, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
But then it kind of got to the point where it was talking about Gwen, or she saw Gwen, and then like how he felt, and when she left, and then it was kind of like, oh, maybe now she knows it was because over a girl, and then that's why she was like, go do your thing, come back later. And then we'll go around now. We'll definitely touch on things that were really cool to see, story wise, artistic wise, and just in general fan service wise. But what were some standout things that really took you for a whirl? Whether it was just the kind of comic book accuracy or fan service that they had, or was it anything specific? Like Jalen, I know you have more of an artistic background. If there was anything that you really were impressed with that they did on the screen, go for it. I'll start with you. Back around with you, Jalen.
Yeah, I think the one that sticks. There's one scene that sticks out in my brain. It's when they're having it's that cute kind of development of that romance between Gwen and Miles, and they're on that building in New York. And it's when Gwen walks off the edge, and they have this amazing kind of it's not even a panorama shot, but when she walks under, and then the whole camera flips, and you see the city go with her, and then she just like webs herself and sits. I was like, what? How many Spider-Man movies have we had, and no one thought of this?
Upside down.
To sit upside, to have this shot even in live action, well, like that's not even hard to do. You fucking throw it on a blue screen and you do a rig and like, come on, man. Oh man, it was that shot alone for me. Like it wasn't. I don't know if it was my favorite of the whole movie, but man, that was fucking cool. I don't know why that one stuck in my brain so much.
You know what? Actually, I would say about that exact scene, and I don't know if I was like, it was what's the phrase for like kind of fulfilling or seeing what you want to see when you're kind of looking for it. When that exact scene happened, I was like looking as like artistically, did they like make it like when a real human is hanging upside down, like their head looks a little more stressed. I was like, did they actually do that with the art rather than just the hair flip?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh my god, they did. I was like
it looks like the blood is rushing to her
yeah,
head.
I was like, this is art.
Yeah, it was incredible, man. And as far as like, I think some of my favorite things that were like nerd nuggets that were in there, we had some great references to his runs with obviously the crawler, the Nightcrawler stuff at the very, very end. But we got to like, okay, there's a hot take coming in here.
Wait,
and I need everybody to, well, not Nightcrawler, but
his
Prowler.
Oh,
Me.
Prowler.
I
was
like,
like,
Prowler.
Nightcrawler.
I knew what you
Not
meant. I
Nightcrawler.
know what you meant.
Prowler, excuse me. But I have a scorching hot take, and holy fuck, this is how this trilogy is going to end, okay? We can't just casually ignore that Donald fucking Glover is in this movie as a version of the Prowler, and we saw this guy in Homecoming saying distinctly, oh, I got a nephew that lives down the block.
I don't want
from
him
here.
in part of this. Right.
Exactly. Like we're just gonna sit here that Sony owns the property and still has now basically solo rights to Tom Holland, and we're just gonna act like this isn't a big deal. People, this is a sound alert. We've gone into the Spider-Verse, we've gone across the Spider-Verse, and my prediction is that when we go beyond the Spider-Verse, there's only really one term that could possibly mean. We're getting live action Miles by the end of that fucking film, and then we're probably going to get him showing up in the next Tom Holland movie. Okay? That's the only way that this ends. They spent years, the last 3 or 4 now, building up this character, getting everyone to understand who Miles is. The most logical conclusion is that a live action version is coming, because you can't just pluck him into a live version movie without anybody knowing who he is.
I hadn't even thought of that possibility.
Like,
but yeah,
why?
if they
Why else would it be there?
If they literally have him like jump through something and come out live action version,
that's what I'm saying, bro.
I'm gonna lose my mind.
Like, imagine Shamik Moore is just coming out and he said, "Hi guys, I'm Miles still." You know what I'm saying?
He already does the voice. I don't understand why he's not. I get that there are probably people who are younger and whatnot, but he can look the part. I mean, I don't think that he looks like he's that much older than some of the people that they've already,
for real,
thrown out there as names. He would be fantastic as a live.
Honestly, think about who their cast is.
No, he was talking about Shamik Moore.
Like, imagine, like, the voice cast they have now. It wouldn't be that far off if they made a live action movie for Miles Morales to just literally take Shamik Moore, Haley Steinfeld, and who does Old Peter, the guy from New Girl. God bless it. I always
Jake Johnson.
Him.
And just Jake Johnson, and throw them into a live action movie. Like, no one would bat an eye. Everyone would just be like, "Oh yeah, that works. That's fine." Yeah, no one. You know what I mean? Like, no one would care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like. I mean, Miles is supposed to be younger. I don't know if Shamik Moore.
You can say it's fucking time jumping bullshit, or
but
I don't know.
Still,
you know what I mean? Like, everyone's gonna care that they hear Miles.
If you clean
now.
shave this dude, have you ever seen him in I
saw him in
watched
Dope, but that was when he was younger.
No, but like that Christmas film that he recently-ish did.
Oh no, I didn't
like
see
it was like 2 years back on Netflix. Literally, like cut everything down. I think he played like a.
Not like Haley Steinfeld is going to get any uglier by the time they get to, you know what I mean? Like, it's...
Yeah. The only thing that's worrying me about that is, like, does that mean she's not who she is on the other side? You know what I mean? Like,
no.
If
she's still Hawkeye Girl,
she's not going to
but
be
she can still be Spider-Gwen. Yeah.
Hawkeye Girl.
Sony could just totally be like, dude, like an FU to Marvel and get, what was it? The girl who was supposed to be Cassie Lang and just hire her as Gwen.
Imagine.
Damn, that would be legendary.
Like,
that would be legendary. Oh my god.
Imagine she turns out way better than the other girl.
Oh, dear.
That would be just
if
insane,
it happens,
man.
you heard it here first on the Poi N Soy podcast.
Exactly.
Insane. Yeah.
But that was some of my favorite stuff in there, man. It was again, there's so, like, the whole movie was really my favorite, just because they've done this character like beyond justice. And I know Brian Michael Bendis has been in some of the production stuff with writing and adapting some of the stories that he's made for the character. So I'm hoping that we wrap up Miguel O'Hara with the next movie, and then we get into some Venom stuff with Miles, because his arc was crazy, like probably one of the craziest ones as far as any other iteration of Spider-Man that we've seen, because it's pretty basic, where he fights Venom, like his version of Venom, but then immediately following, Carnage gets made, and then Carnage decides to try to turn everybody in New York into a symbiote. So it's a symbiote war essentially that Miles has to fight. And so I hope there's a version of that. Also, kudos to them for like doing what Brian Michael Bendis did with this character, but also making the Spot feel like an actual villain, which is exactly what Brian Michael Bendis did in the comics run, because he was the most laughable fucking villain that Spider-Man had for the longest time. And so when he brought him into the Ultimates and all that, yeah, he did so good with voice acting, because the first leg of the movie, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, he's funny. And then you're like, okay, he's really kind of creeping me out now. And then you're like, oh my god, he
learns his powers. He's like flipping through the portals.
Legit looked like Slender Man at the end there. And I was just like, okay, this is kind of creepy. He looked a lot creepier. Yeah.
And there's nothing more menacing than a guy who just goes like this and starts floating up, and he's all blacked out.
Yeah.
But Keone, what were some big highlights that really impressed you or that caught your eye?
Well, it's funny because I was going to point to that scene, but there was something else in that scene that Jay pointed out with the kind of upside down part. Man, it's funny because I know it's an animated film, but the chemistry that those two have, I think, is it like rivals what I think Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, right? That's
Yeah,
the one that
Emma
was in
Stone
the,
had
yeah,
in the Amazing
that
series.
had in that film, because they were fantastic in there, and I think that they, I mean, it's animated, but that one scene right there where they're kind of like almost touch hands and don't touch hands and all that kind of stuff. There was so like many like small nuanced stuff in there that I thought was so interesting that they did, and it just, you could feel it, you could tell, like there was a lot they were fighting back on. So that was one thing that really stood out to me. Another thing was when she was like arguing with her dad. I think I
Oh,
forgot if that was like mid movie, and like the colors start kind of melting, and like everything starts blending. The colors start getting louder. They start getting darker when they're like in the.
Yep.
I mean, that entire world of like the use of colors right there. Um, I mean, I don't really know how to describe it other than saying it looked like watercolor
Yeah.
painting. You know what I mean? Like
hmm
that's the most. Yeah, okay, that sounds right. Okay, cool. Yeah, like to me, like that blending of color and the way that they're able to use it to show the emotion in the scene was just insane, man. Like I think it was even crazy, like showing the dad kind of in the back with like no detail in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Like it's just like barely any outlines with a little bit of color, and you can kind of tell that it's a kitchen. But as that stuff starts fading away, their conversation started getting more intense, and it was just, I mean, one of those things where I was like, I would never even have thought to do something like that, because I, for one, thought the first version or the first movie had such great animation style, the comic book like pop up stuff, um, and that was so crazy to me. So to see this, like to see them take it to a whole nother level on top of what they did in the first one, was just, I mean, Sony Animation, whatever, they're killing the game with these movies. Um, so that stood out to me, and then obviously I think a lot of stuff that Jay pointed out too, where they kind of had all these little references to like what Doctor Strange did, and then they had like the reference to, obviously they showed Childish Gambino, Donald, what is it, Donald Glover, right?
Donald
Yep,
Glover.
Donald
Yeah.
Glover.
Yeah, showing him in there, like, bro, like that entire part, and then kind of like the reveal of like the kind of betrayal of like everybody knowing who Miles was and what his whole arc was like. It was just so good, man. And I think that the more that they started showing what's his name's face, what, I know it's Spider-Man 2099, but what is his
Oh,
like,
Miguel. You
yeah,
saw like the
Miguel.
line drawing, kind of. Is
Oh
that what you're
yeah,
gonna
like,
say? Yeah.
yeah, it
So
just
good.
start like the way it got more intense in his face. Like I was just like, oh, it's just crazy how like he literally made the switch from like that kind of like heroic, cool looking, super whatever guy he was when he first came into that whole deal. So this movie, man, like this got to be one of the top films of the year. And I know I said that about the last film we just reviewed and talked about, but honestly, like I said, that one was good. This was greater than that, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do to top it for the
This
rest of the year.
needs to
Honestly.
be a Best Picture nomination,
Oh
It
yeah,
does. It
agree,
does.
not
hundred
just
100%.
percent.
Best Animated
Yep.
category, because that's a cop out.
Mm-hmm.
It
Let's
is.
get them in the Best Picture, because it's not only artistic, the drama, the story, the writing for the dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
all of it. Chef's kiss.
I think the last thing that really stood out to me was that final like "I'ma do me" thing that he did.
Oh, on the
That
flying train
on the
thing.
train. Oh my god!
Everyone
Like,
keeps telling me what they think I
Bro.
should be doing.
I cannot tell
Nah,
you how
I'ma
hyped I
do
got.
me.
Yeah, I know.
It was
Like,
the same
bro.
infliction when he said it in the first one, where he's like, "You gotta
Yeah.
go, man," and he lets go. I was like, "Yes."
It was so good, man. And then, like you said, Jake Johnson was hilarious throughout the entire thing. I thought his little dynamic with him to could carry it over from the first one was just beautiful, beautiful. Can't
So
wait for
happy
the next
Mayday
one.
Parker is
Oh,
somehow
that was my
in,
highlight.
is
Mayday
in
Parker. She
canon.
puts down the mask.
Cannot wait. It's so good, man.
Uh,
She's an awesome character, man. I am
Yeah.
so happy that that's like kind of in the realm of like possibility to see more of things. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, it was great. And like that last shot that you were talking about on the train when he's flying up, like when he's just like standing there holding it before he lets go. I was like, is this not another shot of like how many times does this guy have to show you he's the best fucking Spider-Man? You know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
dude actually just like
Yeah.
bodied 100 of them, outsmarted everyone,
Bodied
including
100
like
What was
Literally.
the original animated ones like? anything he can do, I can do. No, it's just 2D.
Yeah.
Did you guys catch that?
That was so
I was like, no way.
Oh my god. That's
But I
phenomenal.
would say another highlight that I thought was just kind of the family dynamic that they had. Like they really made it a family oriented movie.
Oh yeah.
Um, and even kind of how his emotions came running back when he saw Mahershala Ali's Uncle Aaron in the Earth 42
Mm-hmm. I
and the
know,
turning
bro.
point. One of the coolest things that I noticed was with Earth 42 Miles when he takes off his mask.
Mhm.
And the only reason I noticed is because we just heard it so many times. But he's like, the original one's like, I'm Miles Morales. And he's like, I am Miles Morales. I was like, that's because your
Morales,
mom
yeah.
raised you more. I was like, yeah, that makes
makes
so
more-
much more sense.
Way more sense.
Way
Yeah,
more
yeah.
sense. And he had
Yeah.
like the braids. I was like, this guy looks badass. I don't want him to get hurt.
Nah, dude. I was
Nah,
like,
kill that
damn.
dog.
I was like, this. I need to see this resolution because I was like,
I
Oh.
know, bro.
I was like, oh, we going there, huh? God damn, we gonna cry like a motherfucker in this third movie.
I know.
Oh Lord Jesus.
Do you guys think that in the third one that somehow both Miles are going to end up on Earth? Was it 1610 or something like that? Right.
Whenever one, I think it's 16,
And then like
yeah.
Prowler Miles is going to see Dad, and everything's going to just kind of like in that way.
or he just kills him again. I don't know, because maybe he has that rationalization. I mean, you got to think this is that version of Miles, like there is like that was the antithesis of this entire movie. If he doesn't have his dad, like what does he have? And it turns into the
But that's what the dad is. What's going to be like? Stop it, Miles.
Yeah, but he already noted it because he's like, your dad is still alive or whatever, and that's a kind of villainous thing where it hits so many layers to it because it's not just a canon comic book thing; it's also a huge narrative on how kids of the African American community grow up without fathers and what that leads to, being in a house, being raised by a single mom, of basically turning to the man of the house at 12 and then having
Leads
to
to
figure
all
out
of
how
Brooklyn
the fuck
just looking like shit.
exactly, like it's an allegory about that. And I know, speaking of, I know we can pass or whatever on the topic, but I don't know if you've been on Twitter, but there's a big thing going around about Gwen being this like allegory for a trans character.
I
and
saw
whatnot.
that. And everyone was
listen,
pointing out like the dad's police department jacket has the trans
Right.
color on it. I was
it
like,
does,
all right.
and it's like if
Oh.
that is how it, like, if that's what this movie does for you and that is what you feel, like, absolutely that is for you. I
It's
did not
different.
personally
Yeah,
take it
it's
that
different
way.
sliding it in and you noticing it rather than like eventually her just being like, I'm trans, and kind of making it more abrupt
Yeah.
and
Just like, I don't know.
unnecessary. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like kind of shoving it in the movie when it doesn't necessarily, if it is naturally written organically into the story that they've created for Beyond, cool.
Cool.
But I think that it is definitely something that can be important. I do, like you said, I do like how they did it, where it was kind of, if it is that, it's interpretation. It's
Yeah.
all subtle. They did it kind of just naturally. It's there. If you guys caught it, and you have a better eye than a lot of us, so good for you.
And honestly, like this, like even if you want to go outside of that, the entire movie is allegory for that community anyway, because Miles has the same conflict that somebody of that community has when they're trying to come out to their parents, right? Like we have that scene multiple times, and so that's why this movie works so well, is because it hits so many different levels of things like that, and so many people interpret it as like, oh, that's how I felt when this moment happened or whatever. Like I can relate to this, or like all of those things. So I'm glad that at least that community feels that they were represented in that way through Gwen's character. I don't personally feel like it was a direct, like, this is confirmation so much.
Mhm.
I do see the allegory and like how you draw that conclusion, because there are a lot of things color wise and how they express her story and how she relates with Miles and like all of those things. But ultimately, like, this franchise has been so accurate to how these characters were interpreted by Brian Michael Bendis when he wrote all of them. Well, Miles, but not Gwen, but and all that kind of stuff. So it would kind of be shocking to me that they would take such a left turn to go and say like, oh, this character is for sure this or
take
for
a
sure
huge
that,
liberty like
just
that.
for, you know, whatever, in that regard. So again, I don't buy in that it's 100% confirmed, but yay, if it's out there, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but like I can definitely see the allegory. And I appreciate the creators kind of taking a risk to do that anyway, because they knew that could potentially have started a discussion, which it did, and now more people are talking about it, and the more people talk about it, the more people want to go see the movie and like all this kind of stuff. And yeah, so
I mean, if you guys want to see the movie, just see it because it's a damn fucking good movie.
Yeah, bro.
please go
I
pay
mean, I
money
think
for
it's
this movie. Go
Go
find the
pay
most
money for it.
expensive like version of the ticket. Go see it on the triple IMAX 4D ultrasonic screen. I
I
don't
think
care.
we're gonna go see it again this week.
Yeah, I
mean,
will be
it
by
was just
myself.
that good.
Honestly, it's
Yeah.
so
You
good.
don't
It
want
was
to.
so good.
You don't want to wait for Transformers.
No,
Oh, I'm sure it's like we're gonna watch that anyway. We already bought tickets for that one. Bought tickets for the other
Double
one. I mean,
feature.
we're on a train of movies coming up soon, so I would 100% go watch it again.
So also, kudos to it was a very small part, but Andy Samberg as Ben Reilly.
Yeah.
bro, I
Yeah.
was dying. He was so good.
Muscularity.
It's
Like,
funny
what?
because I was like, I immediately caught his voice, like, because I was like, it's him from Brooklyn Nine-Nine whenever he does his little, like, monologue voice. And Bianca was like, that's not him. But then as soon as he did, like, that, what was it, like, how did he kind of disappear?
Perfect pose
Oh, yeah. And he's
They're on the
yeah.
on the ledge, looking back.
Yeah.
God,
It's
Andy
so
Samberg.
good.
There was so many good, little tidbits like that. Like,
Also,
so
big
good.
shout out to Daniel Kaluuya for Hobie,
Yeah.
for Spider Punk.
I had no idea that was even him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, I know this voice, and then
Same.
by the end of it, I was like, that's Daniel Kaluuya, and I was like, the whole part with him being introduced, you wanted to hate him. It was like, hey, you're not supposed to take Gwen away from Miles, man, and I was like, you know what, Hobie is pretty cool though. So he's down for them, but
Even
what
his
was
art
he
style,
called?
I think, as he was coming in, I thought was super dope. Just the
He
way
called
he brought him
Mayday. What was it, anarchist or something like that?
Anarchist, yeah, man.
little anarchist.
Right.
But any other big things from you guys that you saw in the movie? Because this was chock full of great moments, great kind of fan services in the best ways possible, great story, plots, lines, things like that.
We
in. I
got
think
a
the blending. Oh,
sorry.
you.
I was just gonna say,
Go on.
there's a fantastic introduction to like the Mumbai Spider-Man, like Peter Picard,
Oh, yeah.
or whatever, and like getting to see that world.
I'm not even gonna try to
Um,
guess that name.
I'm gonna say I'm not gonna try it again, but yeah, but that was very cool.
Oh, the
to see.
Mumbattan,
Yes.
I was
That
like, yeah.
insanely cool to see that version of
Played by
Spider-Man.
Dopinder from Deadpool.
Indeed, played by
Oh, did not
Dopinder.
know
Yes, fantastic. And I think he did a really great job. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about it was like that his action style was different. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
looked
Very distinct.
I'm not gonna say that. Yeah, there we go. That's a great way of putting it. I was like, it looked very Mumbaian, but I mean, yeah, it looks very distinct to the culture. I think that was really cool that they kind of had him have like
It was
something a little bit
culturally
different.
appropriate.
Yes, it was
Yeah, there we
culturally
go.
appropriate.
We'll go with that. But yeah, I think it was really cool. I was gonna say I really enjoyed the fact that they had like the blending of art styles throughout the entire movie. Like
Yep.
they really stuck to that idea of like if somebody's from this verse or whatever, like they were gonna look that way because even when they had like the paper mache like
Vulture.
Vulture,
Yeah,
that
the
was
fight.
so cool, and like having that mix in, and then showing like all the different ones as they were introduced. I thought that was just the coolest damn thing they could possibly do with this movie.
Yeah.
It was so good, man.
And a
Just-
fantastic epilogue for Gwen's character too, by the way. Like that was like
Oh,
a
yeah.
solid 20 minutes of an epilogue
Oh,
before
yeah.
we even got the title credits, and I was
It's just drumming harder and
Like,
harder.
yeah,
Mhm.
I was living for every moment of it because I did read that first run of the Gwen Stacy comics whenever that version came out, and it was pretty much beat for beat as far as like how they developed the story around like what she was doing, and obviously adapted it to the events of Spider-Verse. But yeah, it was really cool to see that exploration of that character because I was the big fan of Spider-Gwen when she came out because I think everybody knows Gwen Stacy's story mostly if you're somewhat of a Spider-Man fan. She even makes reference to it on that scene with Miles, which is Also, why that scene hits so many levels, because if you're just a casual, you're like, oh, this character is having a romance with this character and this scene is cute. But like, if you're a nerd like myself, you're like, oh my god, it's like Gwen talking about like every version of Gwen Stacy falling for Spider-Man.
Spider-Man
Literally doesn't end well, but like this version is completely different, but she still also has that history in her mind, and you're like, you also have that history, so you're like, damn it, can they overcome this? Because maybe like he gets the the black pass because the other ones were white, and that's why it didn't work. I don't know. We gotta get creative here, guys.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it was great. I just love that they spent a lot of time with Gwen. Like I said, I did have my qualms about like her kind of the way her character arcs because of what it does to Miles emotionally, and I'm not sure how that gets resolved without a conversation of being like, hey, remember that time you tried to give me over to like the serial killer version of Spider-Man from like 2099 and like basically set me up to die in some weird reality? Yeah.
Actually, that was a real quick question I did have. Is he like usually like a kind of villain character?
He's the most anti-hero version of Spider-Man that exists ever.
Gotcha.
His mutation with the spider gave him more of like a vampiric side effect where he does kind of like Hulk out in a sense in some of these runs. So like he has to, use his intelligence to figure out ways to kind of keep all of that subdued. But when he goes full rage mode, villain. So
Villain.
good luck.
Yeah,
Good
that
luck.
boy. Yeah.
And the claws are not part of the suit. That is actually like he has claws that can like
Oh, got
that's
you.
part of his mutation. So
Because I almost thought it was like a Venom type of deal where it just like comes out every now and then, like his claws turn.
I mean, they made it kind of seem when like was it Peter absorbed his like suit's energy or something like that. It made it seem like he couldn't like do the claws anymore. I was like, huh, that's weird. But I thought but I guess it was just kind of a liberty that they decided to take from the source material.
Also, the fact that they kept throwing in like the video game Spider-Man like in there was really, really cool. I thought.
Well,
like, I was
that's
just like,
because they have a new one coming out, and so they knew this movie was. This is brilliant marketing all around. Way to go, Sony! Now I want a PS5. God damn it!
Like Phil and Lord, or Lord and Miller will do. They included Lego version. Hello.
so
Exactly.
good. Yeah,
That was
so
hilarious.
good too.
But yeah, I think overall, what a banger of a movie.
Yeah.
So far, this is probably top of my list of movies of 2023.
Easy, not even close. Right here,
Easy.
bang.
Halfway through, we're gonna see how it goes with the rest of these. Who's coming in second, third, and fourth? Last thing I'm gonna throw at you guys: over under. I'll go 25%.
25.
Miles' dad bites it in the third movie.
Way over. Mainly because I have canon references from before. But I would say almost 100% over. Sorry, guys, this might be a spoiler, but if you've read any of the material, it's over.
I think especially if they go the route that Jay was kind of saying earlier too, where they do introduce kind of the live action at the end of this, I would say over as well.
And if we've learned anything from the Tom Holland trilogy, every Spider-Man has to lose. And lose big.
He lost multiple times.
He
to be honest.
lost on that whole movie was him losing. And I was so
getting
sad.
shit on.
But that's a Spider-Man
Over.
movie. That's why
It's
we all
over.
loved it. Finally, they fixed the one thing
You
I
love
hated
your aunt?
about that version of the character.
Bye-bye. You love your best friend Ned? Bye-bye. You love your girlfriend? Bye-bye.
Like, I love your suits. Bye-bye. Done.
Gotta make your own now, champ.
That's why No Way Home, like it hit me so hard because that, like I told you guys for years, that was my one complaint with the Holland Spidey is that he was just Iron Man Jr. and I didn't. That was
And now
I
they're
hated
resetting it so
and
he has to be his own.
I was like, oh my god, that was his origin story. It was a weird one, but it works. It works perfectly. And yeah, here he is. Give me Black Cat, played by Zoe Kravitz, and we're good to go. Okay, wonderful, done. And or Rachel Zegler, either one. I think they would be a good trade-off. Margot Robbie, perhaps.
Now you're just No, you
I
didn't.
know that one maybe.
Was that a reach? Really? When we think
Yeah,
about some
it
of
was.
these,
Kind of-
the other
kind
role
of a
that she's
reach.
played, is that really a reach? If she plays Black Cat of all characters, come on,
Kind of a reach.
not a reach.
She's already supposed to be Sue Storm
I know.
and Barbie.
And Barbie.
I don't know when it started on the Barbie.
I mean,
whatever.
someone, I forgot what, I heard it somewhere, but I think it might have been John Campbell's show, but he was saying that, like, think about this Barbie movie. If you love Barbie, this movie's for you. And if you hate Barbie, this movie's also for you. I was like, huh, that's a good way of kind of putting it. Where it's like, it's a Barbie movie, but it's also just a movie.
We're not doing this. Focus.
Anyway.
We're not doing this. We're not going down that.
And then
rabbit hole.
The Flash. I was kidding. No,
Oh my god.
but yeah, I think that'll do it for this spoiler review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse by Sony Studios, now in theaters, approaching its second weekend. What a weekend it was. 200 million worldwide on the first weekend. Phenomenal.
Lord.
I believe it completely, like, destroyed what its first one did in the first weekend.
Yes, it did.
But gentlemen, hey, everyone out there, we're going to be having a lot of movie reviews this month. June is jam-packed. If you have, yes?
I was going to say one thing. Can I just say the only thing that sucked about watching this movie was the fact that I had the one guy next to me the entire time. You know, oh yeah! Woo!
Oh, you had me sitting.
Hell
next to you.
yeah!
You had me sitting next to you. That's what happened.
Bro.
I had
Bro, I'm sorry. You can't contain it if you're a nerd, Keone. When you see this man punch that dude in the face or win on the subway, you're like, let's fucking go! Let's get it, baby!
He's going to do him! Let's go!
Let's go!
This dude was ruining my movie experience. I mean, he calmed down kind of, I think, near the middle. I think whoever was with him was kind of like,
Shut the fuck up, Kyle.
because
I
like, he was
audibly
doing
yelled
that throughout
when
the.
Donald Glover came on. I audibly yelled. I said, "Oh my god!" I so said, "I'm
Okay,
so
then yes.
I'm so
I was
sorry.
sitting next to Jaden
I'm
the
so
entire movie.
I was like, "No way,
I was just
bro!"
sitting there.
Can't
I'm
wait
sitting there
for
trying to enjoy it, and he just
can't wait for us to watch movies together in Vegas, right, Jalen?
That's good. That's good.
while we're drunk.
It's a good joke. It's good. It's a good joke you put there. Here at the end.
We'll see you there.
Okay. All right.
But gentlemen, let them know where they can find you, starting with you, Jalen.
You can find me on Twitter at Jalen Holston. You can find me on Instagram at ArtByJalen. And you can find me on Twitch at MochaThanos_LGG.
And Keone.
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at Keone. That's KAYOHKNEE.
And you guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at NolanKYT, NOLANKYT. And please give our Instagram page a follow at the Poi N Soy podcast. We are coming out with reels every week for each segment that we are doing. As always, thank you guys for making us a part of your day. We enjoyed having you be a part of ours. From all of us here, from Poi N Soy, good vibes and love.
Bang, bang. What was the foot thing? There we go. That's what it sounds like.
I was just